They say love is blind, but I learned it can also be a trap. At 67, I thought I was saving her. Turns out she was drowning me. My name is Lipin, and this is how a woman half my age used pregnancy to chain me to a country 8,000 miles from home. What started as love became my prison. And the worst part, I helped her build it. If you like stories like this, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything to me. I'm staring at 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test and my hands won't stop shaking. Lipin, we're going to be parents. Ploy's voice echoes in our Bangkok bathroom, but it sounds like she's speaking from underwater. She's crying, but they're not tears of shock. They're tears of victory. My heart is pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears. At 67 years old, the last thing I ever wanted was to become a father again. My daughter back in Ohio barely talks. To me, and my son only calls when he needs money. I came to Thailand to escape that loneliness, not create new complications. Are you sure this is right? I ask, holding the test up to the light like it might change the result. Maybe we should get another one or go to a doctor or… I already know, Ploy interrupts, placing her small hand on her still flat belly. I feel different. I feel happy. Happy. The word hits me like a punch to the gut. I should be happy too, right? This is the woman I love, the woman who saved me from the darkest period of my life. But all I feel is trapped. I look at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She's 28, beautiful, with long black hair and eyes that seemed so innocent when I first met her 6 months ago. Right now, those eyes are calculating something I can't quite read. Lipin, we need to talk about what this means, she says, suddenly businesslike. For us, for the baby, for your visa. My visa. Why is that the first thing she brings up? Not our relationship, not how we're going to handle this massive change, but my legal status in Thailand. What about my visa? I ask, though I already know where this is going. You'll need to stay now. The baby will be Thai citizen, but you're the father. You can't just leave. She's speaking in that broken English that used to sound cute, but now feels deliberate, like she's choosing her words very carefully. I set the test down on the sink counter and look at myself in the mirror. Grey hair, wrinkled face, tired eyes. What was I thinking? Playing house with a woman young enough to be my daughter? And we talked about this, Ploy, I say quietly. You said you were on birth control. You showed me the pills. Her reflection meets mine in the mirror. Pills not always work. You know this. Sometimes baby just meant to be. Meant to be. The phrase sends a chill down my spine. In the 6 months we've been together, I've never heard her talk about fate or destiny. She's always been practical, focused on the here and now. We need to get married, she continues, and now I can hear the real Ploy emerging, not the shy, sweet girl who charmed me at the night market, but someone with a plan. For the baby, for your visa, for us. I turn to face her directly. Ploy, this is happening very fast. Maybe we should slow down and think about… No time to think, she cuts me off. Baby doesn't wait, government doesn't wait, we need to be smart about this. She's talking about our unborn child like it's a business transaction. I walk out of the bathroom and sink into the leather chair I bought for our apartment. Everything in this place I paid for. The rent, the furniture, the food, even the clothes on her back. I told myself I was taking care of her because I loved her. Now I'm wondering if she saw me coming from a mile away. Ploy follows me out, her tears suddenly gone. She sits on the edge of the bed, watching me with those calculating eyes. You're not happy, she says. It's not a question. I'm scared, I admit. I'm 67 years old, Ploy. I don't know how to be a father again. I don't know how to raise a child in a country where I don't even speak the language. I help you, she says, but her voice lacks the warmth it used to have. We do this together, but you have to stay. You have to commit. Commit. The word hangs in the air between us like a threat. I think about my life back in Ohio. My small house, my dead-end retirement, the way my own children look at me like I'm a burden. I came to Thailand to escape all of that. But now I'm wondering, if I've just traded one prison for another, how long have you known, I ask? Known what? That you were pregnant. You seem prepared for this conversation. Ploy's face changes for just a moment, a flicker of something. Guilt? Anger? Then it's gone, replaced by that innocent expression I fell in love with. I just find out yesterday, she says. But I think about it, you know? What if this happened? What we do? What we do? Not what would we do, but what we do. Like it was always inevitable. I stand up and walk to the window. Bangkok spreads out below us, a city of 8 million people where I know exactly 3. Ploy, her Aunt Marley, and the guy who runs the 7-Eleven downstairs. That's my entire world now. I need some air, I say, grabbing my wallet from the dresser. Where? You going? Ploy asks, and there's something sharp in her voice now. Just for a walk, to think. Don't think too much, Lippin. Sometimes thinking makes everything more complicated. I stop at the door and look back at her. She's sitting on our bed, one hand on her belly, watching me with those eyes that suddenly don't look innocent at all. I'll be back, I say. I know you will, she replies. You always come back. As I walk down the hall to the elevator, her words echo in my head. You always come back, not I hope you come back or please come back. She knows I will. She's counting on it. The elevator doors close, and I see my reflection in the polished steel. I look like a man who's just been sentenced to life in prison. The worst part? I'm starting to suspect I helped tie the noose. 2 pink lines. That's all it took to change everything. But as I walk out into the humid Bangkok air, I can't shake the feeling that those lines aren't just a surprise. They're a trap. 6 months earlier, I was a different man. Broken, maybe, but not stupid. At least, I didn't think I was stupid. I'd been in Thailand for 3 weeks, bouncing between hostels in Bangkok like a tourist half my age. My wife Sarah had been dead for 8 months, and I couldn't stand another day in our empty house in Ohio. My daughter Jennifer made it clear she was too busy with her own life to deal with my grief, and my son Mike only called when he needed money for his latest failed business venture. So I did what desperate men do. I ran. Thailand seemed like a good place to disappear. Cheap, warm, far from everything that reminded me of the life I'd lost. I had my pension, my savings, and no real plan beyond finding a place where I could drink cheap beer and feel sorry for myself in peace. That's when I met Ploy. It was my 3rd night in Chiang Mai. I'd been wandering the night market, overwhelmed by the smells and sounds and chaos of it all. Everything was so different from Ohio. The heat, the language, the way people looked at me. Like I was just another lonely old white man looking for something I'd never find. I stopped at a food stall run by an older Thai woman who spoke broken English. She was serving some kind of noodle soup that smelled incredible, and I was tired of eating at tourist restaurants where everything tasted like cardboard. You want try? She asked, ladling the soup into a bowl. Very good. My niece. She makes special. That's when I saw Ploy. She was working behind the stall, chopping vegetables with quick, precise movements. When she looked up and saw me staring, she smiled. Not the practiced smile of someone working for tips, but something genuine and warm. Hello, she said in careful English. First time in Thailand. Is it that obvious? I asked, and she laughed. Little bit, she said, holding up her thumb and finger to show just how obvious it was. But okay, Thailand good for first time. You like? I looked around at the crowded market, the steam rising from dozens of food stalls, the families eating, together on plastic stools. It was nothing like Ohio. I'm starting to, I said. Her aunt served me the soup, and Ploy came around the stall to sit with me while I ate. She asked about America, about my family, about why I'd come to Thailand. I found myself telling her things I hadn't told anyone, about Sarah's death, about how lost I felt, about how my own children seemed to have moved on without me. Very sad, Ploy said when I finished. But maybe you're not lost. Maybe you just in wrong place before, wrong place. The way she said it with such certainty made me want to believe her. What about you? I asked. You have family here? Some, she said, gesturing toward her aunt. But I want to see world, learn English better, maybe visit America someday. She had dreams, goals. At 28, she was still figuring out her life, while I felt like mine was already over. There was something beautiful about that, her optimism, her belief that things could change. I came back to the stall the next night, and the next. Each time, Ploy would take her break to sit with me, practicing her English while I ate. She told me about growing up in a small village, about coming to Chiang Mai to help her aunt, about the English classes she took when she could afford them. "You could teach me," she said one night. "I pay you." "I don't want your money," I told her, "but I'd be happy to help." That's how it started. English lessons that turned into long walks through the old city. Walks that turned into dinners at small restaurants where she'd order for both of us, explaining each dish like I was her student. She was teaching me as much as I was teaching her. After 2 weeks, I was supposed to move on to the next city, but Ploy asked me to stay. "Just few more days," she said. "I want to show you real Thailand, not tourist Thailand." Those few days turned into a month. She took me to temples tucked away in the mountains, to markets where I was the only foreigner, to her favorite coffee shop where the owner knew her by name. She made me feel like I belonged somewhere for the first time since Sarah died. When I finally told her I was thinking about going back to America, she cried. "I know you have to go," she said, "but I will miss you. You make me feel special." Special. When was the last time anyone had said that to me? When was the last time I'd made anyone feel anything but burdened? What if I stayed longer, I asked. What if we tried to make this work? Her face lit up like I'd just offered her the world. "You mean this?" she asked. "I mean it." That night, she took me to her small apartment above a pharmacy. It was tiny, just one room with a bed, a hot plate, and a fan that rattled when it ran. But when she invited me to stay, it felt like a palace. "I never been with Farang before," she said, using the Thai word for foreigner. "But you're different. You're not like other men who come here." Different. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be the kind of man who deserved someone like her. Looking back now, I realized that was my first mistake. I thought I was saving her from her small life in Thailand. I thought I was the answer to her prayers. I never considered that maybe I was the one being saved. Or that maybe, just maybe, she was the one with the plan all along. 2 months after that first night in her tiny apartment, Ploy brought up the idea of us getting a place together. We were having breakfast at our usual cafe when she casually mentioned it. "Lipin, I've been thinking," she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "Maybe we find nice apartment together. What you think?" I almost choked on my toast. We'd been spending most nights together, but this felt like a big step. Back in Ohio, Sarah and I had dated for 3 years before we moved in together. But everything moved faster in Thailand. The heat, the pace of life, the way Ploy made me feel like I was running out of time to be happy. "You want to live together?" I asked. "Only if you want," she said quickly. "I don't want to push, but my place so small and you stay in hotel. We spend money on 2 places when we could have 1 nice place." She was right about the money. I'd been staying in a decent hotel near the old city, paying about $40 a night. Over a month, that added up, and her apartment was barely big enough for 1 person, let alone 2. "What kind of place were you thinking?" I asked. Her eyes lit up. "I know perfect place. My friend, she show me. Very nice building, have pool, have security. Safe for you, safe for me." I liked that she was thinking about my comfort, my needs. That afternoon she took me to see the apartment. It was in a modern building about 20 minutes from the old city, the kind of place where young Thai professionals and expats lived. The unit was on the 5th floor, with 2 bedrooms, a nice kitchen, and a balcony overlooking the city. "How much?" I asked the rental agent. 15,000 baht per month, he said, about $450. More than I'd planned to spend, but reasonable by American standards. Ploy was walking around the apartment like she was already living there, opening cabinets, checking the bathroom, standing on the balcony with her arms spread wide. "You like?" she asked. "It's nice," I said, "but it's more than I need for just me." "Not just you," she said, coming over to take my hand. "Us. We make it home together." Home. The word hit me hard. I hadn't had a real home since Sarah died. The house in Ohio felt more like a museum of my old life than a place to live. "Are you sure about this?" I asked. "Moving in together is a big step." "I sure," she said. "Question is, are you sure about me?" Looking at her standing in that apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows, I couldn't imagine saying no. She'd brought light back into my life. She'd made me feel young again, needed again. Let's do it, I said. The rental agent smiled and started pulling out paperwork. You'll need to pay first month, last month, and security deposit, he said. 45,000 baht total, about 1,350. I pulled out my wallet and counted out the cash. Ploy watched me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You don't have to pay everything, she said. I can help. I want to, I told her. Let me take care of this. She smiled and kissed my cheek. You are a good man, Lipin. We moved in the next week. Ploy didn't have much to move, just a small suitcase of clothes and a few personal items. Everything else we bought together, or rather I bought and she helped me choose. We need good mattress, she said at the furniture store. Very important for sleep. The mattress she picked cost $800. The couch was $600. The dining table was $400. By the end of the day, I'd spent nearly $3,000 furnishing our apartment. Is too much? Ploy asked when she saw me calculating the total. It's fine, I said. We want to be comfortable. But it wasn't fine. It was more than I'd planned to spend, more than I should have spent. But the way Ploy smiled when she saw our new home come together, the way she'd hug me and tell me how happy I made her, it felt worth it. The first few weeks living together were like a honeymoon. Ploy would cook for me, traditional Thai dishes that she'd learned from her grandmother. She'd teach me Thai words while we watched TV together. She'd massage my shoulders when they were sore from sleeping in a new bed. You like living with me? She'd ask. I love it, I'd tell her. And I meant it. But slowly I started noticing things, small things that probably meant nothing, but that stuck in my mind anyway. Like how comfortable she was with my ATM card. I'd given it to her so she could buy groceries, but she'd use it for other things too. Coffee with friends, clothes shopping, small purchases that she'd mention casually later. I buy new dress today, she'd say. Use your card, okay? I pay you. Back. She never paid me back, and I never asked her to or how she'd take phone calls late at night speaking in rapid Thai, her voice low and urgent. When I'd ask who called, she'd say it was her aunt or a friend from her village or someone from her English class. Everything okay? I'd ask. Just family things, she'd say. Nothing important. But the calls seemed important. They'd last for 20 or 30 minutes, and afterwards Ploy would be distracted, checking her phone constantly. One night I woke up to find her sitting on the balcony, talking in whispers to someone. When she saw me, she quickly ended the call. Who was that? I asked. My cousin, she said. She have problem with boyfriend. She need advice. At 2 in the morning. Different time zone, she said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. I wanted to ask more questions, but I didn't. I told myself I was being paranoid. Ploy was young, she had friends, she had a life outside of our relationship. It was normal for her to get phone calls, but normal didn't explain why she'd hide them from me. Normal didn't explain why she'd suddenly clam up whenever I asked about her day, her friends, her family. I pushed down the doubts and focused on the good things. The way she'd greet me with a smile when I came home from my walks around the city. The way she'd curl up next to me on the couch, her head on my shoulder while we watched movies. I'm happy, she'd say. Me too, I'd reply. And I was happy. But happiness built on secrets is fragile. I just didn't know how fragile yet. 3 months into living together, I knew I had to bring up the elephant in the room. We'd been intimate, but we'd never really talked about protection. At my age, I couldn't afford to be careless about anything that might complicate my life even further. It was a Thursday night, and we were lying in bed after dinner. Ploy was reading a Thai magazine, and I was scrolling through news on my phone. The moment felt relaxed, intimate, the right time for a serious conversation. Ploy, I said, setting my phone aside. Can we talk about something important? She looked up from her magazine. Of course, what is it? I took a deep breath. This felt awkward, but it needed to be said. I think we should talk about protection. Birth control, you know? Her face changed slightly, not angry, but surprised, hurt. You don't trust me? She asked quietly. It's not about trust, I said quickly. It's about being responsible. I'm 67 years old, Ploy. I have 2 grown children who barely speak to me. I can't handle becoming a father again. She set down her magazine and turned to face me, fully. You think I want to trap you? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we should be careful. These things happen, even when people are careful. Ploy was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, Her voice was small and hurt. "I've been on birth control since I was teenager," she said. "I'm not stupid, Lipin. I know what happened if I get pregnant with Farang boyfriend." Farang boyfriend, the way she said it stung. Like I was just another foreign guy passing through her life. "I didn't mean to upset you," I said. "I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page." She got up and walked to the dresser, pulling out a small pill packet. She held it up for me to see. "This what I take every day," she said. "Every morning, same time. You want to watch me take it? You want to count pills?" "Ploy, please don't be angry." "I'm not angry," she said, but her voice said otherwise. "I'm hurt. You think I want to ruin my life? You think I want to have baby with man who don't even know if he loved me enough to trust me?" That hit me like a punch to the chest. Did I love her enough to trust her? I thought I did, but here I was, questioning her about something as basic as birth control. "I do love you," I said. "That's why I want us to be smart about this." She came back to the bed and sat on the edge, the pill packet still in her hand. "Lipin, you want to know something? In Thailand, women who get pregnant with Farang, everyone thinks she tried to trap him. Everyone thinks she want his money, his visa, his everything. You know how that make me feel?" I didn't know what to say. I'd never thought about it from her perspective. "I come from poor family," she continued. "My father work in rice field, my mother clean houses. When I was young girl, everyone tell me, be careful with foreign men. They think you only want their money. But I never think that way. I never want to be that kind of woman." She opened the pill packet and showed me the pills inside. "So I take these every day. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because I want you to love me for me, not because you feel trapped." I reached out and took her hand. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel like that." "You want to know something else?" she asked. "I never tell my friends about you. They ask me, Ploy, where you get money for nice apartment, nice clothes. But I don't tell them. Because I know what they think. They think I'm prostitute or gold digger or something bad." "What do you tell them?" "I tell them I have job. I tell them I save money. I tell them lies because I don't want them to know about you." This hurt more than I expected. "You're ashamed of me?" "No," she said quickly. "I'm ashamed of what people think about me. About us. About Thai woman with old foreign man." I pulled her closer to me. "I don't care what people think." "Easy for you to say," she said. "You not the one they judge." We sat in silence for a moment. I was starting to understand the weight she carried, the assumptions people made about our relationship. No wonder she was hurt by my questions about birth control. "I trust you," I said finally. "I'm sorry for bringing it up like that." She looked at me with those big brown eyes that had captured my heart 6 months ago. "You really trust me?" "I really trust you." She smiled and kissed me softly. "Good. Because I never want to hurt you, Lipin. I never want to make your life complicated. You don't make it complicated," I said. "You make it better." She curled up against me and I held her close. The conversation was over, but something had shifted between us. She'd opened up about the judgment she faced, the sacrifices she made to be with me. It made me love her more. It also made me trust her completely. Looking back now, I realized that was exactly what she wanted. The phone calls started getting more frequent in our 4th month together. At first, I didn't think much of them. Ploy was a social person, and it made sense that she'd have friends who called her regularly. But something about these calls felt different. They always came at odd hours, early morning when she thought I was still asleep, late at night when we were getting ready for bed, or in the middle of the afternoon when I was taking my daily nap. The conversations were always in Thai, spoken in hushed tones, and they always ended abruptly when she noticed me nearby. "Who was that?" I'd ask. "Just my friend," she'd say. "Girl talk." Or, "My aunt, checking on me." Or, "Someone from my English class." The answers were always casual, dismissive, like the calls meant nothing. But her body language told a different story. She'd be tense during the conversations, pacing around the apartment or sitting on the edge of the bed with her shoulders hunched. Afterwards, she'd be distracted, checking her phone constantly, jumping slightly whenever it buzzed with a text message. One morning, I woke up to find her sitting on the balcony, speaking in rapid Thai to someone. Her voice was urgent, almost angry. When she saw me watching through the glass door, she quickly ended the call and came back inside. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine," she said, but she wouldn't look at me. "Just family problem." "What kind of family problem?" "My cousin, she fight with her husband. She call me for advice. At 6 in the morning, she work night shift. This, her break time." It was a reasonable explanation, but something about the way she said it felt rehearsed, like she'd been preparing the answer before I asked the question. The lies started small. She'd tell me she was going to the market and come back with shopping bags from stores nowhere near the market. She'd say she was meeting her friend for coffee and return smelling like cigarettes, even though she didn't smoke. She'd claim she was taking an English class 3 days a week, but when I offered to help her with homework, she'd say the teacher didn't give any out. "Where's your English class?" I asked one day. "Near the university," she said vaguely. "What's your teacher's name?" "Ah, Teacher John." "Teacher John? That's his full name?" "I don't know his Thai name. We just call him Teacher John." It was possible. Many English teachers in Thailand went by simple names like that, but when I asked about what they were studying, her answers were always vague. Basic conversation, simple grammar. Nothing specific enough for me to follow up on. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was feeling restless, so I decided to take a walk to the market to buy some fruit. As I was walking down the street near our building, I saw Ploy, sitting at a small restaurant with a Thai man I'd never seen before. I stopped and watched from across the street. They were having an intense conversation, leaning close to each other across the table. The man was young, maybe in his early 30s, well-dressed in a way that suggested he had money. He was holding Ploy's hand, and she was looking at him, with an expression I recognized, the same intense, focused look she'd given me when we first met. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes watching them talk, watching him touch her arm, watching her laugh at something he said. This wasn't a casual lunch with a friend. This was intimate. This was romantic. I turned around and walked back to the quay. Apartment? My mind racing. Who was this man? How long had she been seeing him? Was this where she went during her mysterious absences? When Ploy came home 2 hours later, she was carrying a small shopping bag and humming to herself. "How was your day?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Good," she said. "I go to market, buy some things, then I meet my friend for lunch." "Which friend?" "My friend from English class." "You don't know her." "Her," she'd said her. "What's her name?" I asked. "Nim," she said without hesitation. "She very nice. She want to practice English with me." I wanted to confront her right then. I wanted to ask her why she was lying to me, who the man was, what was really going on. But I was scared. Scared of what the truth might be. Scared of losing her, scared of being alone again. "That's nice," I said instead. "I'm glad you're making friends." She smiled and kissed my cheek. "I'm lucky to have you, Lipin. You let me have my own life, my own friends. Not all men are so understanding." Not all men are so understanding. The phrase echoed in my head for the rest of the evening. It sounded like something someone else had told her. Someone who knew about controlling men. Someone who might have experience with foreign boyfriends. That night I lay awake listening to Ploy sleep beside me. Her phone was charging on the nightstand, buzzing occasionally with text messages. In the dim light from the digital clock, I could see the screen lighting up with each notification. I thought about reaching over and checking her messages, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. That would be crossing a line, violating her trust. And despite everything, I still loved her. I still wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation for what I'd seen, but trust once cracked is hard to repair. Over the next few days, I found myself paying attention to things I'd previously ignored. The way she'd shower and change, clothes after her English classes, the way she'd check her phone constantly, but never answer calls when I was around. The way she'd sometimes slip and mention things about Bangkok, even though she'd told me she'd only lived in Chiang Mai and her village. "Have you ever been to Bangkok?" I asked her one evening. "No," she said quickly. "Too big, too scary. I'm small-town girl." But the day before she'd mentioned a restaurant in Bangkok, describing the food in detail like she'd eaten there many times. The contradictions were piling up, but I kept making excuses for them. Maybe she'd visited Bangkok briefly. Maybe she'd heard about the restaurant from friends. Maybe I was being paranoid. Love makes you stupid. It makes you ignore red flags, rationalize lies, and accept explanations that don't make sense. I was so afraid of losing Ploy that I was willing to pretend I hadn't seen her with another man. I was willing to believe her lies because the truth was too scary to face. But denial only works for so long. Eventually, reality catches up with you. And when it does, it doesn't knock politely on your door. It kicks it down. I discovered the truth by accident. Or maybe it was fate finally deciding I'd been blind long enough. It was a Friday evening and Ploy was in the shower. Her phone was on the bed and it kept buzzing with message notifications. Normally I'd ignore it, but the sound was driving me crazy. I was going to ask her to put it on silent when the screen lit up with a Facebook notification. What I saw made my blood run cold. The notification was from someone named Niran Suksawat, and it was a comment on a photo. But it wasn't the name that shocked me. It was the profile picture that appeared next to it. It was the same man I'd seen her having lunch with. Without thinking, I grabbed the phone and tapped on the notification. It opened Facebook to a profile that wasn't Ploy's. At least, not the Ploy I knew. The name on the profile was Ploy Suksawat. Same first name, different last name. But it was definitely her in the photos. Hundreds of photos spanning years, documenting a life I knew nothing about. Photos of her with Niran, kissing him, hugging him, celebrating what looked like anniversaries and birthdays. Photos from trips to Bangkok, Phuket, Koh Samui, places she'd told me she'd never been. Photos from restaurants, bars, and hotels that clearly showed a lifestyle far more expensive than anything her aunt's food stall could support. The timestamps were what destroyed me. Some of these photos were recent, very recent. There was one from just 2 weeks ago, Ploy and Niran at a beach resort, her arms around his neck, both of them laughing. The caption was in Thai, but I could make out enough to understand it was about love and happiness. I scrolled through more photos, my hands shaking. There were pictures of them together going back 3 years. 3 years, this wasn't some casual relationship or ex-boyfriend situation. This was a serious, long-term relationship that had been running parallel to ours the entire time. But the worst part wasn't the deception. It was the realization of how stupid I'd been. In photo after photo, I could see evidence of money being spent. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, luxury hotels. Money that had to be coming from somewhere. Money that was probably coming from me. Lipin. Ploy's voice came from the bathroom. Can you bring me towel? I quickly closed Facebook and put the phone back where I'd found it, but my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I grabbed a towel from the closet and walked to the bathroom on unsteady legs. Here, I said, handing it to her through the partially open door. Thank you, baby, she said sweetly. You okay? You sound different. I'm fine, I lied. Just tired. But I wasn't fine. I was falling apart inside. Everything I thought I knew about our relationship, about her, about us, it was all a lie. And I had been paying for it, literally paying for her to live a double life with another man. When she came out of the bathroom, wrapped in the towel, she looked so innocent, so beautiful. For a moment, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined what I'd seen on her phone. What do you want to do tonight? She asked, sitting on the bed next to me. Ploy, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We need to talk. Something in my tone must have warned her, because her entire demeanor changed. The relaxed, happy expression disappeared, replaced by wariness. About what? She asked. I could have played dumb. I could have pretended I hadn't seen anything and continued living in denial. But I was 67 years old and I was tired of being made a fool of. About Niran, I said. The color drained from her face. For a moment she looked like she might faint. Then her expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. I picked up her phone and opened Facebook again. The profile was still there, all the photos still visible. I held it out to her. Then, explain this, I said. She stared at the phone for a long moment, and I watched her mind working, calculating. When she looked back at me, her eyes were different, colder, like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. You go through my phone? She asked. It was buzzing. I saw the notification. So you spy on me. I wasn't spying. I was trying to. Understand why my girlfriend has been lying to me for months. She stood up and walked to the dresser, pulling out clothes. Her movements were sharp, angry. You want to know about Niran? She said, not looking at me. Fine, I tell you about Niran. She pulled on a t-shirt and shorts, then turned to face me. Niran is my boyfriend, she said simply. Real boyfriend, for 3 years. The words hit me, like a physical blow, even though I'd already figured it out. And what am I? I asked. She shrugged. You are Lipin. You are a nice man who help me, who give me money, pay my rent, buy me things. So, I'm what, exactly? Your customer? You are not customer, she said, and for the first time her voice softened, slightly. I have feelings for you too, Lipin, but different feelings. You make me feel safe. Niran make me feel alive. Safe, I repeated. Like a bank account. Not like bank account, she said, sitting back down on the bed. Like father maybe, or uncle, you take care of me. Father, uncle. The words made me feel sick. How long were you planning to keep this up, I asked. I don't know, she said honestly. I never plan anything. Things just happen. Things don't just happen, Ploy. You made choices. You chose to lie. To me every single day for months. I chose to survive, she snapped. And suddenly the sweet, innocent girl I'd fallen in love with was completely gone. You think is easy for Thai girl? You think I have many options? I work in food stall, make maybe 300 baht per day. Enough for rice, maybe small room. Not enough for nice life. So you decided to use me. I decided to take opportunity, she said. When I meet you, I think maybe this man can help me. Maybe he lonely enough to pay for company. And you are lonely, Lipin. Very lonely. You need me as much as I need you. She wasn't wrong about that, and it made everything worse. What about Niran? Does he know about me? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course he know, we laugh about it sometimes. That was the final knife in my heart. They laughed about me. I was a joke to them. A pathetic old man who was so desperate for love that he'd pay for the illusion of it. The pregnancy, I said suddenly. Is it his? Her face went pale again. What pregnancy? Don't lie to me anymore, Ploy. I can't take any more lies. She stared at me for a long moment, then looked down at her hands. I don't know, she said quietly. You don't know what? I don't know whose baby it is. The room started spinning. I felt like I might throw up. You mean you've been sleeping with both of us? Yes, she said simply. At the same time. Yes. Without protection. She nodded. I stood up and walked to the window, my legs unsteady. Bangkok stretched out below us. 8 million people living their lives, and I felt more alone than I ever had in my entire existence. The birth control pills, I said. Were they real? They were real, she said. But I stopped taking them too, months ago. Why? Because I want baby, she said. And I want baby to have good father. Rich father. Father who can take care of us. So you trapped me. I give myself chance, she corrected. If baby is yours, you stay, we get married, I get visa to America maybe. If baby is Niran's, I stay with him, raise baby in Thailand. It was so calculated, so cold that I couldn't process it. This woman I'd loved, who I'd thought loved me back, had been playing a game I didn't even know existed. Get out, I said, quietly. What? Get out of my apartment, get your things and get out. Lipin, please, we can talk about this, we can figure something out. I turned to look at her, and I must have looked dangerous because she stepped backward. There's nothing to figure out, I said. You lied to me about everything, everything. Your job, your family, your feelings, your intentions. You used me to fund your relationship with another man. And when that wasn't enough, you decided to trap me with a baby that might not even be mine. Is not like that, she said, but her voice was weak. It's exactly like that. And the worst part is I helped you do it. I was so desperate to feel loved that I ignored every red flag, every lie, every inconsistency. I let you make a fool of me. She started crying then, but they weren't the same tears she'd cried when she showed me the pregnancy test. These were desperate tears, the tears of someone who'd been caught and was about to lose everything. Please don't make me leave, she said. I have nowhere to go. You have Niran. Niran live with his parents. He can't support me and baby. Then maybe you should have thought of that before you decided to play us against each other. I walked to the closet and pulled out her suitcase, the same small suitcase she'd moved in with months ago. It seemed impossibly small now, considering how completely she'd taken over my life. "Pack your things," I said. "I want you gone in an hour." She stood there for a moment, looking at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. Maybe I was finally becoming the man I should have been all along, someone who wouldn't tolerate being used and lied to. "I really did have feelings for you," she said quietly. "Maybe you did," I said. "But not enough to tell me the truth, not enough to treat me with respect, not enough to matter." She packed quickly and silently. When she was done, she stood by the door with her suitcase in hand. "What about the baby?" she asked. "If it's mine, we'll deal with it legally. If it's not, that's between you and Niran." "How will we know?" "DNA test, after it's born." She nodded and opened the door. Just before she left, she turned back to me one last time. "I'm sorry, Lipin, I really am." "So am I said. "I'm sorry I was stupid enough to believe you." The door closed behind her, and I was alone in the apartment we'd shared for 4 months. The apartment I'd furnished for us, the life I'd built. Around her, the future I'd imagined with her. All of it based on lies. I sat down on the bed and put my head in my hands. At 67 years old, I'd learned that there are different kinds of broken hearts. There's the kind that comes from losing someone you love, like when Sarah died. And then there's the kind that comes from realizing the person you loved never really existed at all. This second kind, I was discovering, hurt so much worse. The next morning I woke up expecting to feel relief. Ploy was gone, the lies were exposed, and I could finally start thinking clearly again. Instead, I felt terrified. By 8 a.m., my phone was ringing. "Lipin, we need to talk." Ploy's voice was different, harder, more businesslike than I'd ever heard it. "I think we said everything we need to say," I replied. "No, we didn't. You don't understand the situation you're in." "What situation?" "Meet me at cafe near our building. 1 hour. If you don't come, you will regret it." The line went dead. The sweetness in her voice, even the fake sweetness, was completely gone. This was someone I'd never met before. I considered ignoring her demand, but something in her tone made me nervous. I'd been living in Thailand on tourist visas, renewed every few months with her help. She'd always handled the paperwork, knew which visa agents to use, which borders to cross. I'd trusted her with something I should have managed myself. An hour later, I found her sitting at a small cafe 2 blocks from our apartment building. She wasn't alone. Next to her sat a middle-aged Thai man in a business suit, and across from them was someone I recognized, Somchai, the visa agent who'd been handling my paperwork. "Sit down, Lipin," Ploy said. I remained standing. "Who's your friend?" "This is Kun Prawit," she said, gesturing to the man in the suit. "He's lawyer." My stomach dropped. "Why do you need a lawyer?" "Because you need to understand your responsibilities," Prawit said in careful English. "To Ploy, to your child." "We don't know if it's my child." "Under Thai law, if man lives with pregnant woman as husband, he has financial responsibility for child, regardless of paternity," Prawit continued. "You lived with Ploy for 4 months. You supported her financially. You presented as couple to landlord, to neighbors. In eyes of law, you are common law husband." I looked at Somchai. "Is this true?" He nodded uncomfortably. "Thai family law very complicated for foreigner. If she make claim against you, could be problem." "What kind of problem?" "She could petition court to freeze your assets," Prawit said. "Could request monthly support payments. Could claim you cannot leave Thailand until paternity and support. Issues are resolved." I felt the walls closing in around me. That's ridiculous. I was never married to her. "Marriage certificate not required for common law relationship," Prawit replied smoothly. "Cohabitation, financial support, shared domestic life. These things establish legal relationship under Thai law." Ploy spoke up for the first time since I'd sat down. "I don't want to do this, Lipin, but I'm pregnant and I need to protect my baby. Your baby that might not even be mine." "Maybe not," she said, "but maybe yes. And if yes, then you have responsibility." I looked around the cafe. A few other customers were pretending not to listen to our conversation, but I could feel their attention. This was exactly the kind of situation I'd come to Thailand to avoid. Public drama, legal complications, being trapped in a mess I couldn't control. What do you want? I asked. I want us to work this out like adults, Ploy said. I'm not trying to hurt you, but I can't just disappear because you're angry. You lied to me about everything. Yes, I did, and I'm sorry. But lying doesn't make me bad mother, and it doesn't make you not responsible for child if child is yours. Prawit pulled out a folder of documents. We propose simple agreement, he said. You provide financial support during pregnancy, 30,000 baht per month. After baby is born, we do DNA test. If you are father, we negotiate long-term support arrangement. If you are not father, you are free to leave Thailand with no obligations. 30,000 baht per month, about $900. For 9 months, that would be over $8,000. Plus the cost of medical care and the DNA test. Even if the baby wasn't mine, I'd be out thousands of dollars. And if I refuse? I asked. Then we go to court, Prawit said simply. Thai courts are very protective of pregnant women and children. Very sympathetic to woman who claims foreign man abandoned her while pregnant. Somchai leaned forward. Lipin, I help you with visa for 4 months, but I have to tell you, if legal case starts, immigration will be notified. Could affect your visa status. This was the trap I'd been blind to. My visa situation was precarious. I'd been living in Thailand on consecutive tourist visas, which was technically legal but frowned upon by immigration authorities. If I became involved in a legal case, especially one involving child support, my ability to stay in the country or leave freely could be compromised. I need to think about this, I said. Okay, Ploy said, but not too long. Baby doesn't wait for you to make decision. I stood up to leave, but Prawit stopped me. One more thing, Mr. Lipin. Ploy tells me you have been sending money to bank account in America. Your pension, your social security. If court case begins, we may need to request information about your financial assets. The threat was clear. They weren't just talking about trapping me in Thailand. They were talking about going after my income back home. I walked back to my apartment in a daze. In one day, I'd gone from thinking I was free of Ploy's lies to realizing I might be more trapped than ever. She had me cornered legally, financially, and geographically. That evening, I called my son Mike in Ohio. Dad? Why are you calling from Thailand? Are you okay? I'm in trouble, son, I said. And for the first time in months, I told someone the complete truth about my situation. Mike was quiet for a long time after I finished. Dad, he said finally, you need to come home, right now. I can't. If I leave, now when the baby is mine, they could claim I abandoned my child. And they're threatening to freeze my assets. Then get a lawyer, a real lawyer, not one of theirs. I don't know any lawyers here. I don't even speak the language. Dad, listen. To me, you're being scammed. This whole thing, the girlfriend, the pregnancy, the lawyer, it's all designed to separate you from your money. But what if the baby is mine? Then you deal with it legally, properly, through the courts, but you don't let them extort you. After I hung up, I sat on my balcony looking out at Bangkok. Somewhere out there, Ploy was probably planning her next move. Maybe she was with Niran. Maybe she was with the lawyer. Maybe she was alone, figuring out how to squeeze more money out of the desperate old American who'd been stupid enough to trust her. I'd come to Thailand to escape loneliness and grief. Instead, I'd found something worse. The realization that my need for love had made me an easy target for someone who saw kindness as weakness and trust as opportunity. The worst part was, I still didn't know if I was strong enough to fight back. 7 months. That's how long I lived in limbo, paying Ploy 30,000 baht every month while waiting for a baby that might or might not be mine. I'd moved to a smaller, cheaper apartment across town, partly to save money and partly because I couldn't stand being in the place where we'd played house together. Every day felt like prison. I'd wake up, eat breakfast alone, take long walks through Bangkok to kill time, then come home to an empty apartment where I'd count the days until this nightmare would be over. Ploy and I barely spoke during those months except for practical matters. She'd text me her medical bills and I'd transfer the money. She'd send me ultrasound photos, and I'd stare at them wondering if I was looking at my child or someone else's. The uncertainty was eating me alive. The only person who kept me sane was Mike. My son called me every week, sometimes more, checking on me and reminding me that this situation had an end date. "Just hang in there, Dad," he'd say. "Once you know for sure, you can make a plan." I'd hired my own lawyer, an American expat named Robert Chen, who specialized in helping foreigners navigate Thai legal issues. He was expensive but honest, and he confirmed what I'd suspected. Ploy's lawyer was playing up the severity of Thai law to scare me into compliance. "You're not as trapped as they want you to believe," Robert told me. "But they're not entirely wrong either. If the child is yours, you will have financial obligations. The key is getting that DNA test done immediately after birth. And if it's not mine, then you're free to leave Thailand whenever you want. They can't hold you here based on a false paternity claim." The baby was born on a Tuesday in March. Ploy texted me from the hospital. "Baby girl born, healthy, DNA test tomorrow." I didn't sleep that night. After 8 months of uncertainty, I was finally going to know the truth. Part of me hoped the baby was mine, not because I wanted to be tied to Ploy, but because I'd grown attached to the idea of being a father again. I'd even started thinking about names, about what kind of life I could give a daughter in Thailand or America. The other part of me just wanted this to be over. The DNA test was done at a private clinic in Bangkok. I met Ploy there, and it was the first time I'd seen her since our confrontation at the cafe. She looked tired, older somehow, but there was still that calculating look in her eyes. "How are you feeling?" I asked as we waited for the technician. "Tired," she said, "but happy. She's beautiful, baby." "What's her name?" "Lily," she said, "like the flower." We sat in uncomfortable silence until the technician called us in. The process was simple. A cheek swab from the baby, another from me, and then we wait. "Results in 3 days," the technician said. 3 more. Days of not knowing. On Friday afternoon, my phone rang. "Mr. Lipin? This is Dr. Siriwan from the clinic. Your test results are ready." My hands were shaking as I drove to the clinic. Ploy was already there, sitting in the waiting room with baby Lily in her arms. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see the same nervous energy in her eyes that I felt in my chest. Dr. Siriwan called us into his office and placed a manila envelope on his desk. "The results are conclusive," he said. "Mr. Lipin, you are not the biological father of this child." The words hit me like a physical blow, but not in the way I expected. Instead of relief, I felt overwhelming sadness. For 8 months, I'd been preparing myself to be this child's father. I'd imagined teaching her English, taking her to see America, being the kind of father to her that I'd failed to be to my own children. Now that was gone. I looked at Ploy. She was staring down at Lily, her face completely expressionless. "Are you okay?" I asked her. She looked up at me, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked genuinely vulnerable. "I thought maybe," she started, then stopped. "I hoped maybe—" "You hoped it was mine?" She nodded. "Niran, he not ready to be father. He still live with parents, still party with friends. You would have been good father." The admission surprised me. After everything she'd put me through, she was telling me that she'd actually wanted me to be the father of her child. "But it's not mine," I said. "No, it's not." We sat in silence for a moment. Then I reached into my wallet and pulled out an envelope. I'd prepared for this moment. "What's this?" Ploy asked. "Money for Lily," I said, "for her first year. Diapers, formula, clothes, whatever she needs." Ploy opened the envelope and stared at the cash inside. It was 50,000 baht, about $1,500. "Why?" she asked. "Because she's innocent in all this, and because—" I paused, trying to find the right words. "Because for 8 months I thought she was mine, and I loved her." Ploy started crying then, real tears this time. "I'm sorry, Lipin," she said. "I'm sorry for everything. You're a good man, and I made your life hell." "Yeah, you did," I said. "But it's over now." I stood up to leave, but before I reached the door, I turned back. "Ploy." "Yes?" "Be a good mother to her. She deserves that." "I will," she said. "I promise." As I walked out of the clinic and into the Bangkok heat, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: freedom. The weight of uncertainty, of obligation, of being trapped in someone else's lies, it was all gone. I pulled out my phone and called Mike. "Dad, what's the news?" "I'm not the father," I said, "thank God. So you can come home now?" I looked around at the busy street, the chaos of Bangkok traffic, the life I'd built and lost and built again in this strange country. "Not yet," I said, "but soon. I have some things to figure out first." For the first time in 8 months, I was free to make my own choices. And that felt better than I'd remembered. I thought it was over. I was wrong. 2 weeks after the DNA test, just as I was starting to plan my return to Ohio, Ploy called me. "Lipin, I need to see you," she said. "It's important." "We have nothing to talk about," I replied. The test was negative. I fulfilled my obligations. "Please, just one time for Lily." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at the same cafe where she'd ambushed me with her lawyer 8 months earlier. When I arrived, she was sitting alone, holding Lily in her arms. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "What do you want, Ploy?" She looked tired, older than her 28 years. "I want to say sorry, really sorry, not just words." "Okay, you're sorry. Can I go now?" "Lipin, please listen. I know I hurt you. I know I lied, but I want you to understand why. I'd heard this before. You already told me why. You needed money, you saw an opportunity, you took it." "That's not whole truth," she said, adjusting Lily in her arms. "You want to know real truth?" Part of me didn't want to know. I was finally free, finally ready to move on. But curiosity got the better of me. "Fine, tell me the real truth." She took a deep breath. "When I first meet you, yes, I think about money. I think maybe this nice man can help me. But then I start to have real feelings for you." "Real feelings," I repeated skeptically. "Yes, you were kind to me, patient. You listen when I talk. You make me feel important. Niran, he never do that. He just wants sex, want me to look pretty for his friends. But you actually care about me as person." Despite everything, I felt a stab of sympathy for her. "So what happened?" "I get scared," she said. "I think if I tell Lipin truth about Niran, he will leave. If I tell him I'm not innocent village girl, he will think I'm bad woman. So I keep lying. And lying get bigger and bigger until I can't stop." "You could have stopped," I said. "You could have told me the truth at any time." "Could I? Really?" She looked at me with those big brown eyes that had gotten me into this mess in the first place. "If I tell you after 1 month that I have boyfriend, you would stay." She was probably right. If she'd told me the truth early on, I would have left Thailand and never looked back. "The pregnancy," I said. "Was that planned?" "Yes and no," she said. "I stopped taking pills because I want baby. But I don't know whose baby. I think, if Lipin's baby, then he will have to stay, have to marry me. If Niran's baby, then maybe Niran will grow up, be responsible man." "So you were hedging your bets." "I was trying to survive," she said. "You think is easy being Thai woman with no education, no family money? I work in food stall 12 hours per day for 300 baht. That's $10, Lipin, $10 for 12 hours. I understood the economics of her situation, but it didn't excuse the deception. "What about now?" I asked. "What's your plan now?" "That's why I call you," she said. "I need help." Here it comes, I thought. The final scam. Niran say he not ready. For baby. His parents say I cannot live with them. I have no money, no place to go. That's not my problem anymore, Ploy. "I know. But I think maybe you still care about me a little bit. Maybe you help me one last time." "Help you how?" "I need money to go back to my village. My mother, she will help me with baby. But I need money for bus ticket, for food, for place to stay until I find work." "How much money?" 20,000 baht, she said. "That's all. I never ask you for anything again after this. About $600. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was the principle that bothered me. Even after everything she'd put me through, she was still trying to manipulate me." "Why should I give you anything?" I asked. "Because you're a good man," she said. "And because maybe you still care about Lily little bit." She shifted the baby in her arms so I could see her face. Lily was sleeping peacefully, her tiny fingers curled into fists. She was beautiful, and for a moment I felt that same surge of paternal love I'd experienced during the pregnancy. But then I remembered where I was and who I was talking to. "No," I said. "Lipin, please." "No," I said more firmly. I'm not giving you any more money. I'm not your safety net, I'm not your backup plan, and I'm not your emergency fund. You made your choices, and now you have to live with them." Her face changed, the vulnerability disappearing and being replaced by something cold and calculating. "You are selfish, man," she said. "You have so much money, and you cannot help woman with baby. I helped you for 8 months while you lied. To me every single day. I gave you thousands of dollars based on a lie. I think I've helped enough." "Fine," she said, standing up abruptly. "But remember, Lipin, everyone in expat community will know what you did. They will know you abandoned pregnant woman, abandoned baby you thought was yours. They will know what kind of man you really are." There it was, the final threat, the last attempt to control me through shame and reputation. "Let them know," I said calmly. "Let them know the truth about both of us." She stared at me for a moment, probably trying to figure out if I was bluffing. When she realized I wasn't, she picked up her purse and walked away without another word. I sat at that cafe for another 20 minutes, drinking coffee and watching Bangkok life go by. Ploy's final manipulation attempt had failed because she had nothing left to exploit. No love, no trust, no fear, no guilt. She'd used up all of her ammunition over the past 8 months. For the first time since I'd met her, I felt completely immune to her power over me. It was the most liberating feeling I'd experienced in years. 3 months later, I was sitting on a beach in Hua Hin watching the sunset over the Gulf of Thailand. I'd moved here after my final confrontation with Ploy, drawn by the slower pace and the community of expats who minded their own business. Daily routine was simple now. Wake up at sunrise, have coffee on my small balcony, take a long walk on the beach, eat lunch at a local restaurant where the owner had learned my name and my usual order. In the afternoons, I'd volunteer at the local animal shelter, helping to care for the stray dogs that wandered the streets. It wasn't the life I'd planned when I first came to Thailand, but it was honest. No lies, no manipulation, no false promises. Just me, figuring out how to be alone without being lonely. "You look peaceful," said Tom, an Australian retiree who'd become my closest friend in Hua Hin. We were sitting at our usual beachside bar, sharing a beer and watching the fishing boats come in for the day. "I feel peaceful," I said. "For the first time in years." "Still no word from the girlfriend?" "Ex-girlfriend," I corrected. "And no, I think she finally got the message." Tom nodded. He knew the whole story. I told him everything during one of our long evening conversations. Unlike my children back in Ohio, Tom didn't judge me for my mistakes. He'd made his own share of them. "You know what I learned from all this?" I said. "What's that?" "I came to Thailand because I was running from grief, from loneliness, from the feeling that my life was over after Sarah died." "Makes sense. But you can't run from those things. They follow you wherever you go. And when you're carrying that much pain, you become a target for people who know how to exploit it." Tom raised his beer bottle to hard-earned wisdom. We drank in comfortable silence for a while. In the distance, a group of Thai children were playing in the surf, their laughter carrying on the evening breeze. "I've been thinking about going back to Ohio," I said. "Yeah, what's changed?" "I'm not running anymore," I said. "I'm not trying to escape my old life or find someone to fix my loneliness. I'm just ready to go home." "What about all this?" Tom gestured toward the beach, the sunset, the simple life we'd both carved out in this small Thai town. "This taught me something important," I said. "Home isn't a place and it's not another person. It's just being okay with who you are, wherever you are." A few weeks later, I was packing my things for the flight back to Ohio. My apartment in Hua Hin had been just as small as Ploy's original place above the pharmacy, but it had felt like a mansion because it was mine, filled with my choices, my routines, my peace. Before I left, I wrote a letter. Not to Ploy, we were done forever, but to myself. A reminder of what I'd learned in case I ever forgot. "Lipin, you came to Thailand looking for someone to make you feel less alone. You found someone who saw that loneliness and used it against you. That wasn't love. That was business. Real love doesn't require you to ignore red flags or make excuses for lies. Real love doesn't cost you your self-respect or your peace of mind. Real love doesn't trap you in another country with threats and manipulation. You were 67 when you met Ploy, and you thought your life was over. Now you're 68, and you know it's just beginning again. You learn that being needed and being used are two very different things. You learn that loneliness is not an emergency that requires you to accept whatever scraps of affection someone throws your way. Most importantly, you learn that you can be alone without being lonely. You can be single without being desperate. You can love someone without losing yourself. Don't forget this. Don't ever let anyone make you forget this. Lipin. The flight back to Ohio was long, but I didn't mind. I used the time to think about what came next. Maybe I'd sell Sarah's house and buy something smaller. Maybe I'd travel again, but differently this time, with my eyes open, my guard up, my heart protected but not closed. Maybe I'd even try dating again someday. But if I did, it would be as a man who knew better. A man who had been burned, humiliated, and nearly ruined, but who'd come out the other side not bitter but wiser. I wouldn't be looking to fill a hole in my heart anymore. I'd be looking to share something, my peace, my quiet strength, my earned wisdom, with someone who didn't need to lie to feel loved. I stepped off that plane in Ohio with nothing but a single suitcase and a notebook full of lessons I'd bled to learn. My daughter met me at the arrivals gate. For the first time in years, she hugged me tightly without that awkward distance. I think she saw it too, that something in me had changed. I was no longer chasing ghosts. That night, back in my own bed, in my own country, I slept without fear for the first time in almost a year. No baby hanging over my head, no threats, no lies, just me. And that I realized was enough, because freedom doesn't always come with a plane ticket. Sometimes it comes the moment you stop letting someone else write your story. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to start a new chapter. On my own terms. If you made it this far, thank you. This was the hardest story I've ever had to tell. If you've gone through anything like this, whether you're an expat, a dreamer, or just someone who wanted to be loved, know that you're not alone. Drop a comment below, hit subscribe, and let's keep this community honest. You can start over, even at 68.